How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen, or cry out to you, violence, but you do not save? Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. Therefore the law is paralyzed and justice never prevails. The wicked him and the righteous, so that justice is perverted. I have just read to you from Habakkuk Chapter 1, verses 2 through verses 4. And it's interesting that Habakkuk asked a question that most of us want to know to this day. Why, Lord, do you do nothing? Why do you just stand by and watch while people are being killed, murdered, shot, misused, sex trafficked, prostituted? Lord, why in the midst of all this turmoil, chaos, and confusion, why do you just stand by and do nothing? Well, the Lord answers Habakkuk, just like he answers most of us. And look at the first thing he says in verse 5 of Habakkuk chapter 1. He says, look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed. If you look at America right now, if you look at China, you look around the world, it doesn't matter where you at. And more immorality has become the social norm. And people have just accepted homosexuality. People have accepted child abuse. People have accepted murder. Look at our music today. Murder, drugs, brash, bragging, boasting. And we endorse it. We buy it. Look at our TVs. Violence. So much violence and murder and witchcraft. And we endorse it. We buy into it. So what happened here? When Habakkuk was asking about Israel, he was asking about the southern kingdom of Judah. Why is all of this going on? And God simply says in verse 6, I am raising up the Babylons, that ruthless and impetuous people. Nowadays, people will say, well, who is that? It's the world governments. For a lot of people, they would probably look at it as the Trump administration or something like that. Or they would look at it, some people even looked at it as the Obama administration. Some people look at it as the cartel down in Mexico. But here's the thing. God has already said, you know what? I'm raising up this chaos and confusion to the or these ruthless people, rather. He said these ruthless people to bring all this strife on you. Why? Look at the nations. And he's doing all of this to what? Just like Israel, to bring us back to him. Oh, there's a time period of tribulation coming. Some are experiencing the tribulation now. But we see all of these murders going on, and we see people disappearing, and we're wondering why schools are being defunded. We're wondering why prisons are being built and overcrowded, and while it's the evil. There is so much evil, and evil now has replaced good. You see in the feminist movements now, to where women are trying to demasculate the man, take on the role of the house of the man. Or you got homosexual couples out here adopting children and raising children. You got abortion clinics. These are all things that God is like, what are you doing? What is going on? Evil. And that evil is what's driving people a wedge between God and people. And then the New Age system has a new God: money, greed. And especially in the urban community, throughout all the rap music, the hip hop music, or as they call it, the trap music. If you look at all the movie shows, the Twilights, and all of these witch hunters, and all these occultist movies, and everything that's coming out, all of that is a blasphemy to God. And worst case, and what's even worse, the church organizations now, the organized churches who are being paid off, lobbyists are paying them off to preach for certain politicians and certain people. Why? For money, gain, status. Put money in the offering plate, I'll tell you what you want to hear. No money in the offering plate, I'm going to preach condemnation against you. These were things that were going on in Israel, which now is going on in modern day and within the church since Christ. And the Lord, I don't know how long the Lord can continue to watch as we stand by and continuously accept evil as good. And as long as we do that, we will never, ever come out of these trials and tribulation that we are in. But there is hope. And that hope is to repent from the evil ways of this world. Let go of your idolatrous gods. That's what Israel had to do. That's what we have to do. If not, we are going to fall into captivity. Why? Because God is raising them up. Now, we see all of these injustices going on, and people are like, well, why isn't God doing nothing to them? Habakkuk asked that question. And if you get a chance, please read the whole book of Habakkuk. And I'll tell you, and God told him, I will deal with the Babylonians as well. He's going to deal with the corrupt rulers of this world. All the corrupt governments, the corrupt families, those who use money to drive down social injustice and step on people, and all of these organizations that are coming up against people to destroy them. God will deal with them at his time. But we want God to deal with people at our time. And it don't work like that with him. It don't work like that with God. We must believe that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will rectify and will bring us into a place of peace, especially when the Lord comes back and reigns. But before we can do that, we must put aside our evil desires and our evil ways of this world. And like Israel, before we fall back into captivity, before we get destroyed like Jerusalem, before we get destroyed like Nineveh, before we get destroyed like all these places to where God once saved. We've had the blacks in the United States who have been brought out of slavery and put themselves right back into slavery for the God of this world: money, finances, pleasure, lust, desire, greed, wealth, success, status. Once we have those things as our gods, there is no room for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it looks like he's not doing anything, but I promise you, he is. But he's raising up rulers to bring us down to our knees. And if you would like to accept the Lord and say, Lord, I repent, just cry out to him. Trust and believe. He will be there. God bless you. God keep you. May the Lord add a blessing to the readers, hearers, and doers of his word, and the listeners to this broadcast. God bless you.